Friends say it was a Chicago rapper who was gunned down here on one of Chicago's ritziest streets.
Well, police this morning are looking for the gunman who killed 2 men overnight.
My son was working on that, but his life was taken from him for $100,000.
Hip-hop rap can get real intense sometimes, with disses, threats, and blunt words flying around. It's all part of the game. But when things go from words to actual violence, especially when it's killing people on camera for everyone to see, that's some next-level stuff that nobody really wants to be part of, let alone witness. Did King Von's victims deserve what they got? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag, you know? There are always two sides to a story, and hip-hop stuff can get pretty complicated. So, how did he pull off all this stuff on camera? That's what we're gonna find out. FBG Duck.
Friends say it was a Chicago rapper who was gunned down here on one of Chicago's ritziest streets. They say 2 other people were also shot when 4 gunmen, witnesses say, jumped out of cars and fired from just a few feet away.
In hip-hop rap, it's kind of hard to not beef anyone. Carlton Weekly, aka FBG Duck, found himself in a similar situation with King Von, which he paid sadly for with his life. August 4th, 2020 was a regular day in Chicago, although no one knew it would become pretty dark in Chicago's history. Around 4:37 p.m. in the Gold Coast neighborhood, Duck went out for some shopping, just like anyone would on a regular day. But then, out of nowhere, 4 guys from 2 cars rolled up on him. It was brutal, as they just opened fire, and poor Duck got hit multiple times in his neck, chest, and groin. It was a crazy scene. They left 38 shell casings behind just to show how wild it was. Duck tried to hide behind a car, you know, just trying to stay alive, but they didn't let up. They kept shooting at him. Eventually, a lady and some other dude nearby got hit too. Cops showed up, but it took them a while, and in that time, Duck bled out before paramedics finally got there. But sadly, it was too late. He had lost too much blood, and he didn't make it. That was a tough one for his fans. Duck was living on the edge, no doubt. He had real enemies like rival gang members sending him death threats. No wonder he was keeping his whereabouts on the down low. Sketchy stuff. The cops were checking out security footage from a store on Oak Street, and they heard someone on the phone talking about seeing Duck just half an hour before the shooting. This person was freaking out, saying someone with a gun was after them. The O-Block crew made a quick exit from Parkway Gardens about 20 minutes before all the chaos kicked off. They were rolling in a Ford Fusion and a Chrysler 300, no less. Back in 2020, no one got arrested for this mess, but it looked like it was all about some beef with a rival gang member who was already out of the picture. People had their suspicions about the O-Block crew, but nothing was certain. Then months later, Duck's cousin, BC Armizi, got shot and killed too. But it wasn't until 2021 that they started rounding up suspects. 5 guys, including C. Murda, Kenny, Loss, C. Thang, and Muwap, were busted. Zell Muna had sadly taken his own life 2 months earlier. Ralph Turpin also got caught up and faced murder charges. It's a wild, messed up story, no doubt about it. Before all this went down, there was talk of a $100,000 bounty on Duck's head before he got shot outside on the Gold Coast.
My son was working on that, but his life was taken from him for $100,000.
2 weeks later, someone in Chicago police custody spilled the beans and said someone from the Black Disciples gang was willing to shell out about $50,000 to anyone who would take out weekly, and then they upped the ante to $100,000, according to those police records. It wasn't just one person tipping off the police. Another tipster spilled the beans to the investigators, saying that Duck could sense that he had been a target, but they blacked out the name of the person who set that bounty. But they did give some clues, like how this person had bought custom necklaces for the O-Block crew and the Black Disciples. It so happened that right after FBG Duck's killing, King Von popped up in a YouTube video. What was he doing, you ask? Well, he's getting some cool O-Block pendants for his buddies. Duck and Von's beef goes a long way back to when he was rolling with the Tookaville crew, part of the Gangster Disciples. They say these guys teamed up with the Jaro City bunch and had this whole feud thing going on with O-Block. They dropped these songs and videos dissing each other, no holds barred. In the last one before he got killed, Weekly himself dropped a track in July 2020, and he's like, I said I wouldn't diss the dead, but hey, I did it anyway. Even rapper Boozy predicted that he was going to get killed with the way he dished out the disses in his song. That wouldn't be the first time Duck would be dissing the ops. He had also dissed 9 deceased folks from the Black Disciples crew in a pretty harsh way. He was pointed out to be with K.I. Barnes when O-Block's namesake, Odie Perry, got shot back in 2011 when he was just 20. Everything was basically just a bunch of revenge shootings, including the 2014 killing of Gakira Barnes, one young and brutal female gang assassin from Gangster Disciples faction. Crazy stuff. The Gakira case even got closed, and Von was tagged as the tough spot, surrounded by wild, wretched enemies that seemed chaotic. A video that went around showed the moment they were caught off guard and then tried to get behind fence. An investigator who the video said there were at least 113 people, only 7 of them. Right in the eyes of the earlier witness, one filmmaker jumps onto the edge. He masks and loudly celebrates, thumping his chest. The others, wearing red hoods, did the same first. Security and police arrive but are too late to catch anyone. Medical professionals rushed to Draco, lying on the ground, shaking uncontrollably.
The bounty was on him because of the circumstances. He think that his brother had something to do with his best friend dying. So instead of him focusing on rap, he focusing on vowing to get revenge off that. He let it be known. That's public record. He didn't shy away from that.
Sirens can be heard in the distance amid the... Police keep the witness and stink team members away from him. They don't seem very interested in capturing of the attackers. There are no arrests, and it feels like they're not investigating. It doesn't seem like anyone was thinking about an investigation at that moment. The witness said they needed an ambulance urgently. They see a few medics.
Now when it comes to this rap stuff, I don't care. If you dissing somebody, they all do it. They diss people. So that means somebody should die. If that's the case, everybody should be dead then.
Trying to revive him with CPR and defibrillation. There's a long delay, and they're getting more frustrated. Paramedics arrive, putting an ambulance and away to the hospital. Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, IG, and Ice Cube, who were supposed to headline, canceled their show when they learned about the situation. Shortly after, the entire was canceled. 4 hours after the severe knife attack, Draco was pronounced dead. He was buried at Forest Lawn in Hollywood Hills. Snoop Dogg posted a touching message on Instagram for Drakeo's family. I'm sad the events that took place last night at the Once Upon a Time in LA festival. My condolences go out to the family and loved ones of Drake. I'm not with anything negative. One of many performers, I was there to spread vibes only to my city of LA. He also said he was getting ready for his performance when he heard the sad news. His message ended with a hope for peace. Last night, I was in my room when I was informed of the incident and chose to immediately leave the festival grounds. My prayers go out to everyone affected by the tragedy. Please take care of one another and stay safe, y'all. I'm praying for hip-hop. Wiz shared similar thoughts, calling for calm and music after the setting death. Trib continued to never allowed things to get to this point if only he was still alive. Can't get right. Von was born in 1994, and from day one, he was surrounded by the tough streets of Chicago. His dad, aka Silk, was deeply involved in the streets and had ties to the Black Disciples gang. So you could say the rapper was pretty much born into this kind of stuff. When he was just 11, things took a dark turn for Von. His dad got shot and killed. After that, he got sucked deeper into street life. He joined up with the Killer Ward crew, who had ties to the Gangster Disciples. You'd often see pictures of him hanging with his crew. By the time he hit high school, he was packing heat. He and his rapper buddy G Herbo even started bringing guns to school. High school wasn't about books for him. It was about brawls with rival gangs, and things could get nasty real quick. Around 2010, when Von was about 16, he landed himself in jail for the first time, slapped with an armed robbery charge. But that was just the beginning of his crazy ride with the law. Now you might wonder what pushes someone to take lives. Well, where Von grew up, especially in O Block, life was brutal. Poverty, danger, and zero trust in the cops were just daily facts. In O Block, violence was the norm. Street justice ruled. The city didn't do squat to better life in these hoods, so young guys like Von turned to crime. Tight-knit neighborhoods gave them cover, letting them pull off crimes without raising too many police eyebrows. In this mess, Von got deep into violence. He wanted payback for buddies lost in ongoing gang wars. He had a rep for being ruthless, and if you rolled with him, shootouts came with the territory. He didn't hold back, even tweeting about his criminal plans. One time while he was doing time in jail for the murder of Malcolm Stuckey, a lot of bad stuff was happening back in O Block. People were getting killed left and right, and it seemed like the fearless shooter was missing, which only made things worse. The Get Back Gang was one of the fiercest groups that emerged during this time, and they were dead set on avenging their friends, especially James Johnson, aka T-Roy, and other folks from O Block. Things got really ugly with violence on the rise. People like Chino met their end in July 2016, and another person got shot in a restaurant near O Block in December 2016. The Get Back Gang was on a mission to make things right, or at least their version of right. HK, who was T-Roy's brother, got caught up in this mess, and they say he avenged his brother's death by taking out TB, who supposedly took out Roy. But HK's story took a tragic turn when he himself got shot in O Block in November 2017. FBG Duck's brother, got caught up in this too. Rumor had it that he spilled the beans about T-Roy's whereabouts, and he paid for it with his life, along with his buddy Kobe, in July 2017. It's messed up because a lot of these killings happened while Von was still behind bars. Even though he was trying to make it as a rapper and distance himself from the gang drama, folks still saw him as a big shot not end leader. What's even crazier is that when these killings went down, Vaughn didn't exactly mourn. In fact, he seemed to celebrate them, almost like he was claiming them as his own victories. He even tweeted something about a new rule that said you could only mess with someone if you personally took them out. Right after that tweet, the Get Back gang struck again, targeting DeAndre Wallace, aka Can't Get Right, Man, in June 2018. Man was supposedly the lead hitman when he and his gang went to take out T-Roy, not minding that Roy was O-Block's top shooter at the time and Vaughn's right-hand man. Dude even became Duck's security back in 2017 when they both got on Zach TV. It all went down around 9:50 p.m. when Wallace was just waiting for some food outside a store on East 63rd Street near the 400 block. It's a dark chapter in O-Block's history for sure.
Well, police this morning are looking for the gunman who killed 2 men overnight. They were standing outside of a store in the city's Woodlawn neighborhood when someone started shooting. A 43-year-old man was shot in the chest. He died at the hospital. The other victim, a 22-year-old, also died. Police say the 22-year-old is a known gang member.
Out of nowhere, 2 guys pulled up and parked nearby. When they saw the person they were after, they didn't waste any time and started shooting. It's a really sad story because they not only got the person they were after, but also an innocent person, Troy Hampton, who was just cleaning up outside the restaurant. The whole thing was captured on security cameras and by witnesses who saw it happen. Both of the people involved in this ended up dead, and they were rushed to the University of Chicago hospital. Later, the news talked about this terrible event, and the police said the 22-year-old who died was a known gang member who was their target. What's interesting is that on the same day, FBG Duck was there too, and he got shot, but he survived. But unfortunately, his friend Can't Get Right didn't make it. On that very day, Vaughn decided to go live on social media, hanging out with Memo 600 while they were still in Atlanta, rolling with Lil Durk's crew. During this live stream, King Von didn't hold back at all. He openly made fun of his rivals who had just died.
Who got killed, gang?
Yeah.
Can't Get Right got killed.
Word. Can't Get Right got
Hey, somebody show me a picture. I don't think I know y'all talking about.
There you
My clothes
go.
out?
There you go. Can't Get Right. There you go. There you go. Can't Get Right.
Just a few days before this, Vaughn had tweeted something like, "You can't disrespect the dead unless you played a role in killing them." So you can imagine the kind of disturbing stuff that happened during this live stream. Vaughn and his crew were dissing and making fun of the other gang for showing respect to their friend who had passed away. Vaughn even had the nerve to say that Can't Get Right knew he was going to die, and according to him, no one would have cared if he was gone. It was cold-hearted. He acted like none of this bothered him, even though the rival gang made it clear in a live interview that things weren't over, and they called him out by name. In Vaughn's song, Problems, he didn't hold back at all. He straight up talked about taking out both rivals and folks who could testify against him, saying he did it himself or with his gang. There's even video of him showing a young kid how to disrespect Tuka and use a gun.
Not Tuka. Say Tuka, man. Shoot him again. Shoot him in his head.
Things did calm down a bit after some big O-Block arrests, but real peace in the middle of all these gang rivalries was still a long way off. Vaughn's ties to criminal stuff didn't stop. It seemed like he was behind some hits, but he kept his distance. That kind of reckless behavior got even more cops looking at O-Block, but his rap career was blowing up too. Still, being connected to crime was a big part of his image. It's like he put everything on display, not holding back one bit in his music and actions. It's a wild ride, seeing how his life played out in the middle of all this street drama and his rise in the rap game. Vaughn's Twitter activity was chilling. He tweeted about sacrifices and displayed a disturbing fascination with cereal, which many thought hinted at his transformation into a serial killer. No stopping. He always had clues about murders right before or after they occurred and openly celebrated them on social media, seemingly without fear of getting caught. His posts revealed a growing obsession with violence and a craving for notoriety, ignoring consequences and others' opinions. This dark path would lead to more legal troubles. If he wasn't seeking God's forgiveness for killing rivals and declaring a shoot first, ask questions later show, he would be both on the streets and on Twitter, boasting about cruising through rival territories and tweeting during intense moments, while bragging about being trigger happy. He claimed to be in a league of his own when it came to taking lives, challenging others to catch up, and consistently announcing his readiness to confront rivals. This obsession with witnessing violence seemed to stoke a disturbing bloodlust during this period. Even if he wasn't the one committing the murders, he still wanted a front row seat and a chance to tweet about it, Alexander Witherspoon. Back in the day, on a chilly morning in 2019, February 5th to be exact, King Von and Lil Durk found themselves in a heated showdown right outside this popular joint in Atlanta called The Varsity. They weren't arguing over the best burger or anything, no, it was with a dude named Alexander Witherspoon who was repping the Vice Lords gang. As you might expect, things got real ugly real quick. It went from words flying to bullets flying. Witherspoon ended up hitting the ground right in front of the One Cigar Lounge, and folks around saw it all go down. There was an anonymous witness at the lounge who said she was standing in the vicinity of the incident at about 5 a.m. when it happened. Talk about being at the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe the right place, depending on how you see it. And on May 30th, 3 long months after the event, Durk and Von found themselves in some deep trouble. Yep, they got hit with warrants. And Lil Durk, in all his wisdom, had already done an interview, singing the classic tune, "I've Got Nothing to Hide." But he didn't stop there. He started pointing fingers at his upbringing, blaming it all on a rough childhood. "I had a tough start, but I thought moving to Atlanta would change my ways," he said. And if that wasn't enough, he dropped a track called "Turn Myself In," where he kept shouting about his innocence before he actually did the whole walk into the police station gig and turned himself in. Bless the fans, they were all in, thinking these guys were as pure as the driven snow, believing the charges would just poof into thin air once all the facts spilled out. But by then, Von had already landed behind bars. Von had a concert lined up in Chicago, but it got axed. The fuzz caught wind that the rapper was coming back to his old stomping grounds, the O Block, and they stormed the place big time. Videos showed him getting tackled, and his buddies were hollering that the cops wanted to swipe his bling. Those cops even had those scary rifles to keep the crowd at bay. Von wasn't having it, and he's like, "Why the heck you got me, man? Why y'all on me, man?" He was putting up a fight. Then the cops brought up the canceled concert. They were pointing fingers saying, "Why'd you cancel your show today, dude?" Von shot back, "Nah, you guys canceled it." When he saw they weren't budging, he had to switch gears and be all buddy-buddy. Von started joking with the police, talking about his expensive hoodie, and even trying to make nice with the guy who tackled him. He's like, "That hoodie? It cost a pretty penny. Y'all ripped my shirt. Who tackled me?" "You did, cause look how tired you are." And then Lil Durk decided to turn himself in. Back then, they said they had security cam footage catching all the drama, but Lil Durk and King Von were like, "Nah, that ain't us." They were dead sure that tape would clear their names. But since the surveillance video had them caught red-handed, there was no way to deny it. Durk's lawyer tried to spin it, saying he was only seen shooting from the car. The attorney was like, "You don't see Mr. Banks shooting on the street, right? The only time you think he was shooting is when he was in the camouflage Jeep, right?" The detective nodded, saying, "Yep, that's the only time I saw him shooting." In the end, things got messy, but they couldn't talk their way out of those cameras. The prosecutors were tough cookie. They claimed Durk and Von knew this guy Witherspoon personally and wanted to snatch his 30 grand, flashy diamond chain, and sweet ride.
He said his chain was snatched off his neck and he had $30,000 stolen from him, and they stole the vehicle he was driving.
Plus, they added some gang spice due to Durk's Chicago gang ties. Detective Churchill, one of the prosecutors, said there was video proof of Von shooting on foot while Durk cruised in his car, taking shots at Witherspoon.
You see Mr. Banks' arm out the window firing several shots at the victim, towards the victim.
The defense tried to poke holes in the video, but Churchill shut that down, saying something like, "Nope, that's him in the camouflage Jeep blasting away." Then, after a heated 2-hour showdown, the judge dropped a bomb. They had enough evidence to charge Lil Durk and King Von with a bunch of serious stuff, trying to commit murder, aggravated assault, carrying heat during bad deeds, and having a firearm as a felon. Durk somehow got out on a $250,000 bond, while King Von had to drop $300,000 to taste freedom, but he was on house arrest for the supposed shooting. But guess what? It only took a year for Von to meet a fate that would change everything. King Von and his crew hit up Opium nightclub, then made their way to Monaco Hookah Lounge, and finally to a parking lot where things went wild.
According to GBI, rapper King Von and his group were at Opium nightclub before making their way here to Monaco Hookah Lounge, then to the parking lot where chaos ensued.
This time, it was a whole different story. The original plan was for Von and his crew to go back to their hotel and call it a night, but things took an unexpected turn. Von decided he wanted to hit up an after-party club instead of heading to the hotel. His buddies were a bit puzzled by the change of plans, but they rolled with it and went along. So they pulled up at this new club, but he didn't step inside the club even though his manager tried hard to convince him to join the party. He looked kinda unsure about it all. Now Von's security team had to stash their guns in their cars because the club didn't allow firearms firearms inside. That's when one of the rapper's pals dropped a bombshell. Quando Rondo, another rapper, had just rolled up at the club with only his driver, meaning he was all alone and could be an easy target. Well, you can guess what happened next. Vaughn didn't waste a moment. He jumped out of his car and confronted Rondo. No one from either crew saw this coming, and it quickly turned into a brawl. But things eventually went terribly wrong. Timothy Leaks, also known as Lil Tim and part of Rondo's crew, snuck up from behind and fired multiple shots at Vaughn. The whole scene was pure chaos. And to make things worse, the police on duty got sucked into the mess, firing randomly and adding to the pandemonium. People were ducking for cover and trying to stay safe. Amidst all the madness, Vaughn's team acted fast. They hustled him into their vehicle, hoping they could get him to Grady Hospital in Atlanta in time to save his life. They rushed him into surgery, but despite the doctor's best efforts, King Von couldn't make it.
6 men shot, King Von and 2 others dead, 3 injured and being treated at the hospital.
And just like that, rap's deadliest killer, King Von's skyrocketing career came crashing down. All we've got left of him now is his music and recording. No doubt the guy was crazy talented. Some folks believe in second chances and turning lives around, and he wasn't any different. Think about it. Who knows how many incredible albums we missed out on because of that tragic shooting. But here's the twist. Was he really the cold-blooded killer his rap image painted him as? Or is there more to this story? It's one of those mysteries that keeps you wondering. For more stories like this, click the cards on your screen.